Hello everyone, Anita here, and welcome to week 2 of the 52 weeks illustration challenge. And the theme for this week is outdoors. So I've decided to incorporate some of my older characters into a little campfire scene. To keep this picture consistent with the other pictures, the older pictures of these characters, I'm laying a big flat wash of some mix of browns, different browns. And the reason for that is that I'm usually, these previous illustrations have been created on my sketchbook paper or on my regular favorite paper, and they are both kind of cream colored. So I wanted to keep it consistent and the colors a bit, so that they're a bit brown tinted. I don't know if that was necessary because I put so many things on top, thinking about it now, but at that point it made sense to me, so that's why. It made also things much harder for me because of all the layers that I put on top, and they keep activating that one brown layer, and it was a big mess, but I managed to get through it. Now I'm actually putting a lot of blue washes on top, and I was trying to kind of figure out what blue to use because I really didn't want to use this blue. This particular blue is my favorite blue in the whole palette I have, and favorite blue ever. And this is a ultramarine blue. It's a beautiful color, but I can't work with it. I think I'm too stupid for it, seriously. It does something to the paper. I think the pigment is heavy, and it just sets on the paper, it pulls the water around it. I can't seem to create a really nice flat wash with it, and then it annoys me because sometimes I just want a nice flat wash of blue. So as you can see, I'm really struggling, trying to kind of dab it away, and I figured that I'm going to cover it with other layers later on anyway, so I'm just trying to do my best. And here I'm actually turning my paper around just to keep the gravity, just to keep the water going down, so that the gravity kind of helps me paint and create it nice and even. And I'm propping it on my iPhone, so the black thing under it is just on my phone. I'm flipping a few times and drying it in between layers, so that I can, because I've decided to just keep adding very thin layers of blue so that I don't get a big mess. But it's still not as flat as I would like it to be. It's still not as nice as other blues just set on the paper. I don't know what's wrong with me and this blue. I really love it. It's definitely my favorite blue, but I just can't seem to figure out how to work with it. I mean, I don't have any other problems with any other color. It's just this one blue. So, if anybody actually has tips for me now that I think about it, please leave some comments down below. That would help a lot. So the idea behind this picture is that all these characters are sitting, of course, around a campfire, and behind them it's night. And so behind them and behind this big character in front, which is actually a yeti, so behind the yeti in the front, you still have darkness. That's why kind of only his edges are supposed to be lit up. So I'm trying to darken parts of him. And I've also decided to leave my palette on the side, so you can kind of see how much time it takes for me to mix and how many mistakes I'm doing. Well, for example, this one right now, where I mixed this blue into a brown and created this weird teal color. I really don't know what I was thinking. I'm actually, I should have cut it out. Seriously, this is kind of embarrassing. Well, after fighting with it a little bit, I finally managed to mix some kind of bluish brownish color that would fit the Yetis. And the Yetis themselves, the idea behind them is that they get invisible. They are so the humans can't see them, and it's because their fur is a little bit like chameleon skin, or it's a little bit of a transparent it melts with the surrounding. That's why a lot of the blue from the background kind of seeps into the Yetis in the back, because they absorb that color. And later on I will be adding some white fur on top of it, so I needed to kind of figure out a color that would be not too dark, and so that the Yetis in the front wouldn't be completely black, but it also couldn't be too light, so that the white details later on would be still visible. That's why it's a weird color. So the first part of this video is not really that exciting. I'm just kind of adding a lot of layers. It was a very tedious task, because I just keep adding layers of color and trying to kind of get the theme and the idea going. I was kind of afraid of painting because the sketch and the line art were really nice. And at every single point of drawing, I was extremely happy. And that made me unhappy. Because from experience with my painting, it seems that every single time that I'm very happy with a painting at the stage of a line art, at the middle stage, let's put it this way, then usually it turns out disgusting in the end. I don't even finish it. And so at this point, I really hated this painting. At this point, when I was painting that arm and this Yeti in front, I was really hating what I was doing. And I remember thinking, oh, okay, so there's still hope left, because I hate it. That means that it will turn amazing. And I know that's a weird way of thinking, but that's actually, it tends to come true every single time that I'm happy about a painting. While I'm painting it in the process, it turns out bad, but when I'm unhappy with it and I actually push through it, it turns out really good, and I'm actually happy in the end. But that's why I keep painting. That's why I actually keep adding all those layers. Because I actually, despite not being really sure and really afraid of it, I actually knew what I wanted. That doesn't happen that often, that I know what I want. I just didn't really know how to achieve that effect. So that's why, as you can see, at first I wanted to paint only part of the Yeti blue, and then just the edges brown, and then light it up with some of the fire glow. But in the end, I've decided to paint it all of a darker brownish, the same tone, just because it kind of made more sense, and I was really happy with I like to put darker things in the foreground for some reason. That's my thing recently. And here I'm just kind of with adding all the color to the front. It seemed that all the Yetis in the middle were a little bit bland, so I kind of wanted to give a little bit of a middle tone. That's why some of them, at first I was starting to just paint some of them, but to kind of deepen that brown. But in the end, I just painted every single one of them. So as you can see, this is just a really, really boring process right now. A lot of flat washes. Flat washes are really, they're not exciting to paint, but they're really, how can I say it, comforting? They're like a stress reliever. If you're stressed, you should try painting flat washes. So much. They're fun because they don't go bad. They just, they can't go bad. They'll always end up flat and boring, and they will fill the area you want, and you will feel, successful at doing it. So here I started painting with this red wash. All of the blanket squares need to be painted. But when I was painting it, I realized, this is a very, very bland picture. It's turning really bland. And actually, when I was starting to paint this second blanket, and I realized that I really like this richer kind of red. But when I dried the paints, it disappeared, of course. So I was kind of fighting with myself because I painted just, quite a lot already. But at some point I decided, to just start add more pigments, add more paints, and make it a bit more opaque. And of course repaint all the squares. So that's fun. Yep, and I'm doing it right now. Look how far I came, and I started repainting them. Of course, when you paint a second wash, it's much easier for some reason than when you paint the first one, probably because you already have that red underneath, and so you don't really have to pay attention to all the little nooks and crannies, because you won't see the white. The lighter red will kind of even it out. It will even look like like it's supposed to be like that. So I didn't have to. I kind of painted it a bit faster, I think. At least it felt faster than the first wash. And immediately I started liking it, more. And the nice contrast between the blue and the red, and it did not make me feel any better because it was still so far from being done. And I started liking it. So this painting was supposed to be an A5. It's actually an A4 because I had a completely different idea when I started sketching for the outdoors theme. But once I painted, I drew the fire campfire first, and the little girl, and all of a sudden I could see this image of a lot of faces just looking up, just snuggled next to her, and I was like, oh my god, I want to draw this. I really, really want to draw like lots of Yeti babies and like a whole big bundle, like a big bundle of Yeti babies, just listening to some stories at the campfire. And it's probably because I don't know, I live in Holland, and the weather in Holland is so weird. At the moment we actually have a little bit of a minus temperature, like actually cold and freezing. But Christmas time was like spring. It was warmer than spring tends to be. So, and all of a sudden it's so cold, but there's still no snow, because of course why should we have snow? And so all I can think about is that I want some snow and I want campfires, and this appears. So I'm finally done with all the tedious parts, and as you can see, I darkened the background a little bit, and I just made it splotchy. I didn't care anymore. I figured I'm gonna cover it eventually anyway, and it will even out, and it's gonna be fine. I will not care. I want to do fun stuff like drawing, like painting hair. And this character is like, she has a really nice hair, like the kind of hair I always wanted to have, in this warm brown color. It kind of looks like, it reminds me of chocolate milk. I don't know why, but it was really cool. I haven't drawn these characters for over like almost a year. This is actually, I have 3 stories going on that I really am committed to, and this one is about a girl who meets like, she gets into like this accident in the mountains, and she meets a yeti that he rescues her, and he lets her warm up in his cave, and you know, he gives her chocolate milk, and then he helps her get home to her parents. So I haven't really like finalized this story or anything. It's just like this idea I had when I was painting the picture, but from there I kind of went to his whole story where she kind of gets into the Yeti culture, and that this is where it comes from, this one. Like, you know, she's listening to the Yeti lore. And her name is Heather, by the way. She looks like a Heather to me. I don't know. Kind of like, she's really cute. And here I'm messing up her cheeks. I had no idea what happened. I've been painting like I usually do in the little cheek blushy thingies. Like, you know, little girls should have, of course, blushing cheeks. But I don't know what happened there. Just I messed it up, so I just used the water brush to erase it and moved on. And the campfire, I had no idea, because I refuse to use any kind of, I get distracted by Facebook and just computers in general, so I refuse to use reference. My phone was just under the painting. I did not use it for anything, and I didn't remember, like, in what way fire, like, how does a fire actually look like? You know, it's just orangey, but what is it in the middle? Is it lighter in the middle? Is it dark? It's just my head went completely blank at that moment, and I couldn't remember. So that's why it's all orange, and I decided to check it later. So I could always fix it with something. And I'm just adding all the little details. I have no idea why I've decided that Yetis need to have blushing cheeks. I mean, how does that even work? They have fur all over their faces, so... But, you know, that's the good part about drawing. You know, you can draw whatever you want to. So I figured, okay, it's all fine because I drew it like that. So we have blushing Yetis. And I'm trying to figure out a kind of a way to make some kind of ground that they're sitting on, and just adding a bunch of little splotches and rocks, and this is a dirt ground somewhere, but I didn't want to add too much color because, you know, we still have to account for the glow around the fireplace that I will add later. Here you can see a bit better the glorious background. I was like, hell yeah. This is totally the background that makes it look like... disgusting. So this picture will work out, right? It's gonna be fine, right? I didn't mess it up, right? I kept thinking, I'm gonna cover it later. It's gonna be fine. It's not messed up. This is supposed to be winter sky. Like, there's probably some forest in the background, so splotches are definitely, you know, appropriate. And here I'm already finished with watercolors, and and I'm painting with a Copic marker. Let's try to make a sentence. And this is just as usual. I'm just trying to figure out some more shadows and adding some depth. I just like the way the Copic marker looks. I could do it with watercolor. It's not necessary. It's kind of easier for me. Much faster. I have much more control. It cuts the time for painting, and because I don't really have to worry about anything else. I'm just adding the color. And it also helps because the shadows are consistent. It kind of helps me to tie the whole picture together. It doesn't even have to be this color, it could be any other color, but this is actually just my favorite, so that's why. And I have the refill for it. One day I'm gonna have refills for more Copic colors, and then probably I will use more of them. That's how it works. But the good part is that most of my pictures are on the warmer side. The warm gray fits really well, so it's good. And I like how it blends with all the colors. I can layer it on top of the different color and will absorb some of that color, because of course Copics are transparent, so one of these days I'm gonna start scripting these things, and I'm not just gonna sit and try to figure out what I'm gonna say. Okay, this is a part I haven't done in any of those videos before. I'm actually using a soft pastel to further enhance the colors. I've been doing this a lot in my previous challenge painting, so 2 years ago. But I actually haven't touched soft pastels for a very long time, and it was kind of refreshing to use it again. What I'm basically doing is I'm scraping some of the color to make a powder, and then I'm applying it with my finger. And because I'm rubbing it really hard into the paper or watercolor, I actually don't know how to say it. I'm probably into watercolor, but because I'm rubbing it really hard, I have to hold the paper hard as well, and it's kind of it's really hard work. It's hard work to be a painter. I'm adding the blue in different places to kind of tie it all together, if it makes sense. And this is my cheaty way to make glow around the fire. Look how easy that is. It's just this transparent layer of color that I'm further enhancing with some colored pencils. And basically the soft pastel in the middle, it kind of gives me an idea of where the glow should hit. And then I'm just kind of going over different places with a colored pencil and kind of adding a little bit more of color. You don't really see it that much. It's not that visible. It's a very subtle effect. But once it's all together, it makes perfect sense, and it really, really works well with the watercolor and with the Copic. And it's the kind of a way I would create paintings in the previous challenge as well. It's more of a mixed media rather than watercolor pretty much at this point. And the white gouache. I cut a little bit of the footage. I didn't notice that I wasn't recording, but there's not really much to be said. I'm just adding a lot of swirls, and this is kind of to represent the snow, and it also appears in every single picture I've made with the Yetis. Just those swirls of snow and different kind of dots and little stars, which are of course snowflakes. It's just like, this is a really, really fun way to paint. I'm trying not to touch too much, like not to move my hand. I probably should have used some kind of support, just a piece of white paper or something, just to block the area underneath my hand. So this is really just a bunch of random swirls. And here's what I was talking about. Because the Yetis are kind of camouflaging into the snow, and it's, in my head, They have a lot of those white hairs around their, body, and some snowflakes and snow and crystals and other things that get attached to it. And that's why I'm adding all kinds of white details at the edges of the Yetis. And I really like how those white details really added, tie it together. As you can see, despite how messy the background was, in the end it kind of, all made sense. It really started working together, and you are not really paying attention to all the mistakes and splotchiness that I've done, because under the gouache that I'm adding right now and the soft pastel, it's not really that visible anymore, and it makes it really, really glowy, if you know what I mean. It's kind of, I have a feeling that it makes the background really pop, the added colors. Here I'm just adding a bunch of white details. I didn't really want to add the white hairs to the whole Yeti bodies, if that makes sense. That was my original idea, but I thought this would be a little bit too much, so I'm just adding them here and there. And of course, the little fire, just to make it glow. I looked it up in the end. And here, finally, at the very end of painting, I became smarter and decided to use, support for my hand, because my hands really shake recently. I have no idea why. And so I can't really make a normal line anymore. I have to have proper support because I'm getting older. And that's just at some point, when I'm adding, you can see I'm thinking and pausing more and more between each stroke. And that's because I'm actually thinking I wanted to add so much more. I was thinking in my head I wanted to add white here and white there, and that seemed too much to me in the end. I just stopped myself from adding more because that was just too much detail. And detail is really good, but you can really overdo it, and then it's just a big mess. So, and here is the other side of the Yeti. So I'm just adding the same pattern. Well, it's not a pattern, it's just a random swirls here and there. And I had so much fun painting them. It's crazy. They're so freeing. It's just, you don't really think about anything. You're just adding little dots and stars and little swirls. And that's it for today, guys. I'm going to spare you the picture of me trying to unwrap this thing. I am never ever attaching it to a small board again. So here's just the finished product. I'm really happy with how this painting turned out, and I hope next week will be just as fun. So thank you very, very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!